Jack found the shop again. As he stood across the street, he knew it was waiting for someone new. The ledger could not claim him again, but it would never stop trying. He felt its presence more strongly now. Something was going to happen. It wasn't the sort of place you just overlooked. A wooden sign hung crooked above the entrance, its name carved into the grain as if done by something that barely understood human hands, Whisper Dread. It was a name that sat heavy on his tongue, unspoken, as if saying it aloud might change something. Jack lingered near the shop, watching the street. He knew the ledger would find its next victim, as it always did. At that moment, Mason Wheeler approached the shop, completely unaware of what waited inside. For a moment, Jack considered stepping forward, issuing a warning, but he stopped himself. The choice had to be their own. It was late, too late to stop what was coming. Mason had spent hours at the library, searching for anything on Arthur Blackwood. Nothing. Not in the archives, not in the historical records. The man had vanished into obscurity, but that didn't make sense. Mason's history professor had circled Arthur Blackwood in red ink on his assignment list, as if to mark something significant. A warning? An invitation? Mason wasn't sure, but something had led him here, and then something had called him inside. The bell above the door didn't ring. The air inside was thick, like it had weight, clinging to his skin. The shelves lined the walls, ancient books stacked carelessly, some leather-bound, others with pages curling from age. Trinkets filled the glass cases, artifacts that pulsed with something deeper than time. And then there was her, Malon, standing just inside the doorway watching him. She did not beckon, nor did she warn him away. She simply waited, as she always did. Jack had heard stories of the shopkeeper, of the woman who never changed, never aged, and never intervened. He imagined her now, standing in the middle of the shop, her red cheapao, embroidered with golden patterns, flowing around her, an unmoving sentinel in a place beyond time. And then behind the counter, watching, waiting, as she always did. Her expression was unreadable, but her lips curled just slightly, as if she had been expecting him. "Many things inside," she said, her voice low, distant. "Some find what they seek, some find what seek them." Mason swallowed. The ledger sat on a shelf covered in dust, its cover bound in green leather and faintly glowing as though it had its own inner light. It had no title, no markings, only an ancient metal clasp, tarnished by hands that no longer existed. "I was just looking for something on Arthur Blackwood." Jack knew how she worked. She never answered directly, only speaking in riddles, watching the choices unfold. The shop flickered, not physically, but something about the space shifted. It had been waiting. "Ledger choose. Ledger hold. You belong." Her words sent a chill through him. The candle beside the book flickered unnaturally, stretching shadows along the walls. For a moment, the entire store seemed to exhale. Mason's fingers hovered over the book. He didn't choose it, but he had already been chosen. It felt as if someone trapped within the ledger had reached out to him, providing the information he needed. The outline of Mason Wheeler's face, burned away by fire, seemed to press into his memory, clear and vivid as if someone, or something, had delivered it to him. It wasn't long before the details of Mason's disappearance surfaced, like a reminder planted by a shadowed hand. Another name had vanished, Mason Wheeler. The memory of his face, burned away by fire, lingered, like an unwelcome ghost that wouldn't leave. He sighed, taking a slow drag from his cigarette. He had seen this before, too many times. The ledger took, and it never gave back. Jack had been the only one to escape it, but the ledger had never stopped calling to him. This time was different. The ledger was outside the shop. A demon had borrowed it, and Jack felt its presence more strongly than ever. Inside the shop, the ledger's pull was muted, but now it screamed out, pressing against his thoughts. He knew there had to be a way to destroy it, somewhere, buried in memory, locked away from him. When he was inside the ledger, he had heard whispers of something, an artifact that could break the cycle. But he couldn't remember what it was, only that it was inside the shop. And he could never go back in, and he knew why. If he ever stepped back inside, the ledger would claim him again, and in doing so, it would set Balaam free. That was why he had to destroy it, not just for himself, but to stop the cycle. No more victims, no more names added to its cursed pages. That was the thought, at least. And neither had Balaam, the demon who had once held him captive. Balaam had failed in maintaining the cycle, inadvertently enabling Jack's escape. The demon's power and presence still resonated within the ledger, always seeking to lure him back. The connection between them was unbroken, and that bond only made Jack's resolve stronger to end the ledger's curse. Jack still heard its whispers in the dead of night, a voice promising him power if only he would return. It whispered in his dreams, waiting for him to make one mistake. But the cost of escape was knowledge, and knowledge demanded action. That night, Mason sat in his bedroom, staring at the ledger. He had left it on his desk, unopened, but it was hard to ignore. The ledger sat there, untouched, yet something about it made the shadows around it seem deeper. Even unopened, it carried an unnatural weight, as if the darkness clung to it. He flipped it open. The pages weren't blank. Arthur Blackwood, born 1872, disappeared 1911, last seen at Blackwood Manor. The ink didn't just settle into the page, it bled into it. As Mason watched, more words began to appear, forming before his eyes. She took him. She always does. He was not the first. He will not be the last. The ledger does not hold names. It consumes them. A shudder ran through him. He slammed the book shut and turned back to his laptop, trying to shake the unease. He focused on his assignment, typing without thought, the words flowing too easily. When he finally leaned back, rubbing his eyes, the screen glowed with a completed report on Arthur Blackwood, detailed, thorough, yet none of it from his own research. His stomach turned. He glanced at the ledger. It sat there, silent, yet he could feel it watching. Mason exhaled sharply. He had finished his homework, but it wasn't his work, it was the ledger's. His breath quickened as he grabbed the book and tossed it into the trash. Done. But when he woke the next morning, it was back on his desk. The road stretched endlessly, Mason's grip tightening on the wheel. He didn't remember deciding to leave. His body just moved. The trees bent inward as if guiding him. The journal sat on the passenger seat, pages open to a map that hadn't existed the night before. Blackwood Manor. His breath hitched. The road grew darker, the headlights barely cutting through the mist curling across the asphalt. He pulled into the car park, his fingers tightening on the wheel. The air felt heavy, pressing down around him as he remained seated, gripping the steering wheel tightly. His fingers twitched as he pushed open the car door. His mind screamed turn back, but his feet carried him forward. The trees loomed ahead, their silhouettes shifting in the moonlight as if watching. A narrow path stretched before him, leading into the woods. His breath came shallow, his grip tightening on the flashlight as he stepped off the road and into the dark. At his feet, a symbol carved into the earth. The same one from the ledger. His fingers trembled as he knelt, retrieving a small box of matches from his pocket. He didn't remember taking them from his home, yet here they were. He placed candles around the symbol, 5 of them, one at each point of the carving. The flames flickered wildly before settling, casting long, unnatural shadows across the trees. A burlap sack hovered above the symbol carved into the earth, directly over a hollow opening, moving without wind, its shape twisting unnaturally. The ground beneath it was hollow, an opening carved deep within the marking, as if something had been buried, or was waiting to rise. Beyond it, the forest thickened, the air heavy and suffocating. Mason shivered. He could feel something right in front of him, yet his eyes refused to see it. What he could not see, what he would never see, was the ghostly figure hovering just behind the burlap, its form stretching over the hollowed-out symbol, as if guarding the unseen depths below. It hovered, motionless, its hollow gaze fixed upon him, almost as if it was waiting for him to complete the ritual. He did not even know he had begun. The figure lingered, faceless and silent, a part of the ritual he did not even know he was completing. Mason followed the burlap, unaware that he was already lost. The burlap stirred, then drifted forward, its path clear. Mason followed, his feet no longer his own. The wind picked up, pushing him onward. The path led to a clearing, and beyond it, Blackwood Manor, waiting, as if it had always been there. Inside, the house had been waiting. A close-up, the massive wooden door, aged and scarred, its handle ice-cold in his grip. It creaked open, revealing a dimly lit room beyond. Inside, Mason entered the living room first. Sitting on the worn armchair, he held the ledger open in his hands. The fireplace before him burned steadily, the flames casting flickering shadows on the walls. The warmth never reached him, though, and a cold presence settled around him. Across the room, another chair stood empty, or so it seemed. A faint, ghostly outline lingered there, motionless. Mason didn't see it. He didn't notice the figure's hollow eyes locked onto him, but the cold presence weighed heavier, as if something unseen watched every turn of the ledger's pages. His body moved, his feet dragging him toward the next room, into the library. Shelves loomed high, filled with dust-covered tomes, their spines cracked with age. His eyes moved across the books until they landed on the missing persons wall, tattered papers pinned to the wood. Where a photo should have been, there was only the outline of a face scorched by fire, burned away as if it had never existed. But one space remained empty, waiting. He did not know why, but the sight made his chest tighten. A whisper stirred the air. A name forgotten, a name reborn. You sought a whisper, now hear the storm. Mason's breath stilled. He turned toward the empty chair, his fingers twitching as if grasping for a memory just out of reach. The figure was there, but not for him to see. His fingers moved without command, tracing the inked symbols on the floor. He should leave, but the ritual had already begun. The walls cracked. A black mist slithered from the corners, curling around him. The journal trembled, its pages flipping wildly. Ledger open. No past. No future. The shopkeeper's warnings, always vague, always lingering, came back to him, twisting, warping, as if the shop itself whispered them back. He tried to scream, but the mist poured into his mouth, pressing against his lungs, his skin stretching unnaturally. He was not alone in his own body. His steps carried him further. The stairs creaked beneath his weight as he ascended, drawn towards something unseen. At the top, the bedroom door stood ajar, its darkness yawning before him. He stepped inside. The air was thick with stillness, dust settling over the wooden floor in an undisturbed layer. The bed was not neatly made. Its linen was cracked, aged, as if someone had been there long ago, their presence lingering in the fabric of time. Time had left its imprint, and yet, something about the room felt incomplete, waiting. And then a figure in the doorway. This time he could see her. A ghostly woman, standing at the threshold, her hollow eyes locked onto him. She did not move, but he knew what she wanted. She was waiting for him to follow. Mason followed her and moved back down the stairs into the basement. The ritual neared its completion. The candles flickered violently, their flames stretching impossibly tall. Mason sat on the cold basement floor, the ledger open in his trembling hands. The ghostly figure lingered behind him, her presence growing stronger, more tangible. A shadow stretched from her form, slowly wrapping around him. His skin prickled as the darkness seeped into his body, his veins turning black with the invading force. He gasped, but no sound came. As she absorbed him, her outline sharpened, her once spectral frame becoming solid, flesh and bone emerging from the mist. Her movements were graceful, deliberate. Each step forward brought her closer to being whole again. Mason's eyes fluttered shut as his strength drained away, his body giving in to the consuming presence. Fully formed now, she stood before him. A woman once more. The ledger hovered in the air before her, its pages flipping as if by an unseen hand. She reached out, her fingers brushing its cover. She was free for the moment, but the freedom came with a price. She glanced at the pages, her expression unreadable. She had one task left, return the ledger. If she delayed, if she lingered too long, the same ink that brought her back would claim her again. The ledger did not grant mercy, it only lent time. Jack pictured Malon inside, her expression unreadable, waiting in her red cheapao. Once the ledger returned to its original spot, the shop would shift to a new location, drawn to where the next demon's need would take it. A new city, a new name. Malon's gaze settled on the shelf where the ledger had reappeared, untouched and waiting. The demon had to return the ledger on their own. Only if they failed would Malon call it back, and that was never without consequence. The ledger knew when its borrower had fulfilled their purpose. If a demon delayed, or if a mistake was made, it could become one of the missing, absorbed into the ledger's pages and lost forever. Those who resisted were not only claimed but erased, existing only as spectral echoes. My demon Balaam is trapped in the ledger because of the mistake that let me escape. Now I can't step foot in the shop. If I enter, the ledger will claim me again and release Balaam. The only way forward is to destroy the ledger from within, without being present myself. It's the only way to break this curse and truly be free. Malon knew this cycle well. Demons borrowed the ledger to gain form, to grow their power, but none ever kept it. Another would come soon, as they always did. The ledger was their only bridge to the human world, their sole chance to manipulate it. Melon herself could never make a mistake. If she did, she would join them, trapped inside the ledger's pages. The shop always waited for the next borrower, patient and inevitable.
No one leave. No escape. Ledger take, ledger keep. Always call. Always return. You stay. You not free. No one escape ledger.